Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome into the second hour of college football today on the first Saturday of the 2024 college football campaign. He is the mastermind. That's Joe Lisi. He is OK Dubs. That is Kevin Walsh. I am Ben Stevens, and this is my preseason top 10. Always one of our favorite segments here on college football today because it leads to debate and often gets heated, and new technological advances for 2024, not just all 10 at once, so you guys can gander and start to pontificate what you want to get mad at me for. We go in order, in a reveal. So let's start at number 10. We go from the bottom, and we work our way up. At number 10, drum roll, please.
Come on, man. I
thought about it, too. Whoa! There it is, number 10 on your screen, the reigning national champs. That would be Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines check in the 10th and final spot of Ben's top 10. Kevin Walsh, your first thoughts.
I'm really in on this Michigan team this year. I think that Sharon Moore is I'm probably the highest person out there in terms of, I think he's a top 10 coach in college football. Again, he's got more wins against top programs than head coaches like Dan Lanning, what he did against Ohio State and Penn State last year. And he did those in different ways. The offensive line we know is always going to be good. Their key returners are four guys, but they might all be the best player at their specific position. Donovan Edwards, Colston Loveland, Will Johnson, and, of course, big man up top, Mason Graham.
I love the pick. I tell you what, we talk about the dominance in terms of the Big Ten, 20 and over the past couple of seasons, a 22-game home winning streak, and every time Michigan pounds the rock when they're 15-0 over the past couple of seasons. That's a dominance. I love the way they match up, too, in terms of week number 3 against Texas, catching 3.5 points. They win that. There might be a front runner potential to win the 10.
The reigning national champions, a 30-1 number to defend their crown, but so much turnover this year in Ann Arbor. Only 43% of the production from last year back. That's third least in all of FBS college football. But I agree with you that Sharon Moore is one heck of a head coach and a great offensive line coach. They've had to fill in some pieces via the transfer portal, but Michigan is still going to run the damn ball, and the defense is going to be damn good as well. At number 9, a team also at 30-1 alongside Michigan for that 10th best number to win a national championship, Florida State. Now, if you watched the show last year, I believe that Florida State should have had an opportunity to contend for a national title in the CFP. Lisi Guy, what do you think 2024 has in store for the Noles?
I think sky's the limit. Plus 154 to make the college playoff. I think they win today and more. I think they run the year. I think hands down they are the best team in terms of the conference. DJU, I think, elevate this team. And what Mike Norvell has done, not just on the offensive side of the ball, Ben, but on the defensive side of the ball, bringing in players like Marvin Jr. now. Last couple of years, they had a first-round draft pick. 2 years ago, it was Jermaine Johnson. Last year, Jared Verse. That defense comes to play, and that's why I think they're deserving of a top.
And Patrick Payton is back. He was one of the best freshmen in the ACC, a solid sophomore campaign as well. And you bring in Marvin Jones Jr., also both cornerbacks of the 8th best passing defense in the country. In Shaheem, I'm forgetting his last name. We'll make sure we find that. And Fentrell Cypress II are back for FSU. At number 8, the reveal, please, here for Ben's top 10. It is Ole Miss, a 14-1 number on the Rebs to win a national championship. Lisi Guy, would go to you first. I know we are brothers in arms here, having high expectations to grow this season.
They play offense, but that defense last year held opposing offense to only 226 passing yards per game. We saw the dominance in the bowl game against the Big Ten opponent, one of the top teams in the Big Ten in Drew Aller and Penn State. That's why I think they match up. Speed kills, baby, and Ole Miss has it, Kev.
I think Michigan's better than both of those teams that we've got right up there right now. To me, I understand the excitement around Ole Miss. And listen, I know the portal is important, but there's no continuity with what they're doing on the defensive side of the football. And I've not seen Lane Kiffin show he can truly hang with the very best in the SEC yet.
10-plus wins in 2 of the last 3 seasons, at least 8 in all of the last 3 seasons. As Joe mentioned, as Kev just alluded to there, the best transfer portal class entering 2024 along that defensive front. Princely Umanmielen coming over from Florida and Walter Nolan from Texas A&M. At 7, it's the team that Ole Miss got the better of last year in bowl season. That would be the Nittany Lions of Penn State at 20-1. I'll say it very simply. If the Nittany Lions fail to make the college football playoff this season with one of the easiest schedules in the Big Ten, James Franklin has a lot of questions to answer after a decade in Happy Valley, Kev.
My only question is, if they lose to Ohio State, I am sure these two here are chalking up a win when they go, to California and play USC.
Yes.
But if they also lose that game, we're putting them in because, they beat all the bad teams they played? Everyone's, in prior years they would have got in. They beat who they're supposed to. They lose who they're supposed to lose to. I don't know if that's enough to get into the college football playoff when there's other teams like Michigan who will have better wins on their schedule, even if they have 3 losses compared to 2.
I've been on Penn State before. No Manny Diaz, new head coach at Duke. Tom Allen takes over. Is there a transition or a drop-off? But biggest picture, Ben, when you lose 3 games and your quarterback completes less than 50% of your passes, I can't buy it. Sold in terms of Penn State.
I think Drew Aller, under Andy Kotelnicki, the new offensive coordinator in State College, is going to have a big year. He is the biggest question mark. Let's go 6 and to 5 here with the reveal, if we can, to keep the pace of our program. Alabama at 14-1 at number 6, and Notre Dame, for me, checks in at number 5. I have Alabama outside of the top 5, despite being high on the Crimson Tide for the CFP, but I am very high on Notre Dame. Alabama also ranked outside of the top 4 in the preseason AP top 25 for the first time since 2009. A toss-up here. Kev, your reaction?
Listen, I don't know if people understand it at this point. Most unbiased man in the history of sports media. That's me. I don't think Notre Dame makes the college football playoff. Obviously, I'll be rooting on the Irish. But everyone keeps telling me their schedule's easy as they open the season as an underdog on the road against a ranked SEC team.
And Mike Elko, first-year head coach, Connor Wegman, consistent. If they lose that game, Marcus Freeman's on the hot seat. And I'll just say this, Ben. You talk about easy schedule. Army, Navy, Miami of Ohio, and Northern Illinois. There's 4 wins right there. If they don't get to 10. Something's
All right,
wrong.
no, see,
Something is wrong.
You're mentioning them. Oh, they got 6 easy games like everybody else. That doesn't even make sense. How does that you evaluate this?
Put this here for you.
I appreciate
we haven't
it.
Been friends. We've been friends always. We haven't seen each other in a while. This was part of the reason.
No, listen, it's great to see. It's
flew
great.
off
Listen,
the
I'm gonna turn around. I mean, this guy doesn't know how to break down schedules. What are you talking
the
about?
Irish are going to make the college football playoff at minus 170 price. We'll get to that. A great defense under Marcus Freeman, Riley Leonard at the
4
quarterback
wins right
spot.
there. We're talking about bowl eligibility.
He also only mentioned 3 teams, but we'll get to that in a second. At number 4, as we keep going through this list, we have Texas at a plus 850 number, 4th best price to win the national championship. Oregon is number 3. Before we get to the top 2 in the order that I have them, Kev, your thoughts on this?
I think the Ducks are overrated personally. Dylan Gabriel has no chance to be as good as Bo Nix was last year because that's a top 15 season statistically in the history of the quarterback position in college football. Their defense is not top 10 nationally, and yet we continuously see them. How is their defense top? It might not be top 5 in the Big Ten.
They're the most complete team in the Big Ten entering the season,
crazy.
and I'm
That
selling
makes no
Will
sense.
Howard. I don't care. We can have that discussion. Dan Lanning's done a fantastic job. Bowden Jones, now Dylan Gabriel. That's the difference.
The defense has gotten really good in Eugene as well, at least based on the transfer portal. Keep an eye on Jabbar Muhammad. He leaves Seattle to go to Eugene. Unlike the AP Top 25, a changeup, Georgia 2, and what will be my national championship pick, the Buckeyes from Columbus at Ohio State, my top-ranked team in the country. Closing thoughts, last 20 seconds of the segment.
I think Georgia's the best team, and I did say the 4 teams for Notre Dame, Northern Illinois, Miami of Ohio, Army, Navy, and they should win.
Get you?
A&M. It's a light pancake.
It is not the hardest schedule that the independent program Notre Dame often has to play. A Big Ten breakdown next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
The realigned an expanded Bigger Ten. Now 18 schools within the Big Ten Conference with the addition of the 4 West Coast newcomers in Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington. How does it reshape the landscape not only in this league, but nationally in college football? As we welcome you back to CFT, live right here on SportsGrid. We start at the top. Ohio State, the favorite to win the Big Ten title this season, something they have failed to do the last 3 years, coming up short against their most bitter rivals in Michigan. Oregon, like Texas, in a new conference, but having the second best price to win the league. Penn State rounds out the top 3 at plus 490. Kev, is Michigan getting disrespected from the odds perspective? The Maize and Blue, the 3-time consecutive Big Ten champs, check in with the 4th best number.
Listen, I think there's a lot of value on their number. Look, why not? We can pepper these things in. I bet that team at 35-1 to win a national championship. I think they have that type of ceiling. And, look, I do not think they will be beating Ohio State this year. Quite frankly, if Ohio State goes into that game unbeaten and loses to Michigan, I think you let Chip Kelly coast the rest of the year and let Ryan Day go figure something out. Maybe he can get a broadcast job or something. Michigan has no business winning that football game, even if I'm super high on them. But getting to host Texas, getting to host Oregon, getting to host USC, they have to go 2-1 at the Big House, which we know that they're more than capable of. I think this team at 9-3 can get into the playoff. Alex Orji can break out. I talked over there at the wall about the 4 superstars they have, 2 on both sides of the ball, and I just look, man. Part of it is obviously me kind of poking and prodding the debates we've had prior about Dan Lanning, but legitimately, Sharon Moore last year, I know the team was incredible. Jim Harbaugh, who many would have said was one of the 5 best coaches in college football, was gone, and they just went and beat Michigan and went and beat Penn State, and we didn't bat an eye at it. I don't think you can say enough about that. So for me, I understand if you trust the defense of Ohio State more, I wouldn't disagree. If you trust the offense of Oregon more, I wouldn't disagree. But there's this big gap from the national title price perspective that, to me, is just way too big. 35-1 on Michigan, I think, is an awesome number.
Yeah, it's an overreaction, right? It's the attrition, the players that they lost along with their head coach, and the perception is they're just going to fall off a cliff. But the recruiting is there. Not only that, the defense is there, and they built this team in terms of the interior offense and defensive lines. They average 169 rushing yards per game. We talk every time they pound the rock for over 200, they win. What does Sharon Moore want to do? In 2 games against Ohio State and Maryland, they rushed it 84 times. Big game, Donovan Edwards, 497 yards. I think he could build on that performance where he had 900 2 years ago. Him and Blake Corum were a dynamic 1-2 punch. And if they start fast and they run it down Texas and they win that, and then all of a sudden, let's say, build some steam and knock off Oregon at home, they have a very good chance of knocking off Ohio State from just a physicality perspective and, more importantly, the psychological perspective, Ben.
8.5 is the win total for the Maize and Blue. There is heavy juice on the over. I do not expect that much of a drop-off in Ann Arbor despite the massive turnover year over year. 13 Michigan players drafted in the 2024 NFL Draft. That's why you will see many new faces this season for the Maize and Blue. We'll get to the top of the market with Ohio State in our next segment. I just want to make this point about Penn State. It is a favorable schedule now for the Nittany Lions. No longer in the Big Ten East, where that was always the question mark for James Franklin and PSU. Could they get past Michigan and Ohio State? The last 2 regular seasons, the answer has been a resounding no. They have beaten everybody else on the schedule except the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. This year they get to host Ohio State. They do not have to play Michigan in the most difficult test for Penn State outside of that, a road trip to L.A. to take on USC. Kev, those are the only 2 teams that are ranked in the preseason top 25. Penn State has to play this year.
So I want to say this. I went into the Penn State breakdown wanting to like this team. I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I get it.
The Andy Kotelnicki thing, they last year, Jalen Daniels, I believe, was the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year.
He was.
He didn't play, and they didn't drop off at all. I mean, Jason Bean was good, but Kotelnicki has to get a lot of credit. I mean, he turned Kansas into a top 25 offense nationally. That is crazy, right? It's an incredible thing that he did, and now he's here at Penn State. But I don't know if I love the offensive line. Losing a guy like Olu Fashanu really cannot be overstated. Singleton and Katron Allen are both really good. I think you love that. The wide receiver room brings questions. Drew Aller last year, 25 touchdowns to 2 picks is great. But the leap he has to make with what we saw in those games against Ohio State and Michigan is so big.
Yeah.
It worries me. I can't get there on them beating Ohio State because they don't beat Ohio State, and I think this is a really, really good Buckeyes team. So it comes down to this USC game. Unsurprisingly, I'll be much higher on USC than the both of you. But and this is, again, the stomping point here. If they lose to USC and Ohio State, they should still be 10-2. Mm-hmm. I won't think they'll be deserving of getting in, and I feel like many will still say, they're the 11th seed.
Possibly. I mean, again, we on paper, if they lose their two biggest matchups and they're 10-2, I do not want to put them into the playoff because it's what have you done for me lately? Absolutely. They cannot beat Ohio State. They can't beat Michigan, respectively. And if they lose a potential game to Washington or let's say another a team that came in from the Pac-12, then that's a problem, right? That is a problem. Here's the thing. I have more confidence in former quarterback Sean Clifford trying to lead a come-from-behind win than I do Drew Aller right now.
Can I ask you, the game with USC, they're not on bye prior. Don't you think it's going to be tough for these Big Ten teams going out west, not on bye, because of just how unique that is?
No, not really, because it's a week-to-week sport. They have so much time in doing so. They'll be able to charter flights. No, I don't think it's the biggest deal for football in terms of the cross-country travel that we shall see. Drew Aller last year against the four best passing defenses in the Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, and Rutgers. Less than 200 yards in all four. Less than a 50% completion percentage against the Scarlet Knights, Buckeyes, and Wolverines. Let's get to the rest of the Big Ten. There is a large odds drop-off from Michigan at plus 850 to USC at 20-1, to Iowa at a 42-1 price, to Nebraska, to Wisconsin, to Rutgers, and those teams after that. Joe, I know you're high on the Cornhuskers. We'll have a little bit more time to discuss those teams on the other side of the break. We will also talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes, who watched their most bitter rivals win a national championship a season ago after knocking off the Bucs for a third consecutive season and said never again in Ohio State in the Big Ten in 2024. Find out why.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Live right here on College Football Today, we continue our Big Ten conversation and breakdown. The two top teams in the Big Ten from an odds perspective entering 2024, it's Ohio State at a plus 150 price, and the newcomers from Eugene, Dan Lanning in the Ducks, at a plus 210 number. Less than $1 of separation between these two teams. Lisa, do you think the Bucks and the Ducks are that close in contending for a conference championship this season?
I think they are, and we talk about the dominance in terms of the physicality of the offensive line. Oregon rushed for 184 yards per game. They held opposing offenses to 112 yards on the ground, and when you look at Ohio State, that was a problem. That's why they had Quinshon Judkins come over from Ole Miss. Even though Travion Henderson was there with Kyle McCord, Ohio State and Ryan Day only averaged 139 rushing yards per game. That needs to get better. You bring in Chip Kelly, you now bring in Will Howard, and even though Will Howard has the backbone and the mental resolve playing in Kansas State, I worry about the consistency. Only 61% completion percentage last year. This is different than Justin Fields years ago and even C.J. Stroud. You know, I worry about Will Howard's consistency, and that's why I give the edge, Kev, to Dylan Gabriel and Oregon.
So this is look. I have Oregon in because ultimately I don't think the schedule is tricky enough for them to not get there, and I think the schedule spot against Ohio State works in their favor. And their offense could very easily be the best in college football. I would expect it to certainly be one of the 5 best, with not just Dylan Gabriel, but Tez Johnson back, giving Evan Stewart time to ease into everything. The running back room is going to miss Bucky Irving in the passing game, but the offensive line still projects to be one of the 5 best in college football. But I sometimes you come across these things, and I feel like I'm on a different planet. Does anyone think that defense is top 10 in the country or something? Like, it's no okay. It's more likely that they are outside of the top 5 in their own conference than they are, to me, top 5 in the country. They are not as good as Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Iowa. They just aren't.
Right.
You then add in the Georgias of the world, the Florida States of the world, the Alabamans of the world. I don't understand how Oregon is that number with a defense that I don't think projects top 10 nationally.
Well, I think they are because of what they can do offensively as well. And I think the defense is going to be good. They have made the additions in the secondary throughout this offseason transfer portal, the second best class entering 2024, only behind Ole Miss. And Jabbar Muhammad, who is now one of the lead corners for Oregon. He transferred from Washington to Eugene. I think they will be good on the defensive side of the football. And the offense, Dylan Gabriel is the Heisman Trophy favorite. Is he going to put up a Bo Nix season? Maybe that's too high of a caliber, but I expect him to put up some really good numbers. Second best scoring offense in the country, better than 44 points per game last year, and the second best total offense, more than 531 total yards last season. Will Stein remains as the offensive coordinator. I think that's good for the Ducks. As for Ohio State, again, they saw Michigan win a title and said, over my dead body. They brought back everybody. And in terms of your concern around Will Howard, he's got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. Emeka Egbuka, you've got Carnell Tate, and you might have the most talented freshman in the country in Jeremiah Smith. And I don't even know if they're going to be utilized because the ground game with Chip Kelly's system is going to be electric. Will Howard and his athleticism, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson are all back as well. Let's go elsewhere around the Big Ten. We talked about USC's number, a 20-1 price on the Trojans in their first year in this conference. And then it's 42-1 on Iowa, 50-1 on Nebraska, 50-1 on Wisconsin, and the reigning national runner-ups in Washington with a ton of turnover after Kalen DeBoer and pretty much everybody else left at 110-1. Lisi, of the other 5 best prices on your screen right there, which team catches your eye?
Well, again, I like Nebraska. And again, I think the schedule lines up in terms of Matt Rule that they have the potential to start 5-0 before they square off with Ohio State in early October. Dylan Raiola gets the start, 5-star recruit that was lured by Georgia and Kirby Smart, comes back home. The family ties to Matt Rule and Lincoln are there. And again, the physicality, that's the biggest thing. When Matt Rule took over in 2022, this defense was allowing 189 rushing yards per game. He got it down last year to 92. They ran the football much more effectively, 176 yards per game last year. Kev, they lost 3 games down the stretch. I mean, 5 of the last 7 by 7 points or less, but 3 by 3 points. That was devastating. I think this year's a change. And 7-5, 8-4, are right there for the taking. I think they're going to be better than people think.
Ran the clock out on me. USC plus 470 to make the college football playoff. Lincoln Riley is now the most underrated coach in college football.
We'll have some Southern Cal talk in our college football playoff predictions later in the show. When we look at the individual race for a Heisman Trophy up next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back to College Football Today, live right here on SportsGrid. It is Saturday, August 24th, 2024. The Heisman Trophy will be crowned late in December. Who has the best chance of striking a pose? That is our conversation here on CFT. As we look at the five best prices, there has been some movement in the last 48 to 72 hours as we get ready for a new college football season. And it focuses on the quarterback now in Eugene. That's Dillon Gabriel, a guy with a long track record during his collegiate career. First at UCF, then he went to Oklahoma, where he played a season ago, and was in Heisman consideration after leading OU to a comeback in the Red River rivalry. It was a plus 750 price just earlier this week, a co-favorite alongside Georgia's Carson Beck. Now Gabriel is all by himself at a plus 550 price, Joe, here in the preseason on this first Saturday of 2024. Is Dillon Gabriel deserving of being the solo short favorite to win a Heisman Trophy in his first year at Oregon?
I don't know. It's a lot of pressure right now. I think he's deserving to be in the conversation, but he's taking over for a quarterback in terms of Bo Nix that threw for 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and we talk about the completion percentage in terms of FBS, one of the best all time at 78%. Early in the middle part of the year, Bo Nix was up over 80% at 81 for much of the regular season. So this is a lot of pressure, but I understand it. Dillon Gabriel, 30 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He can also run in terms of the RPO game. Kevin, he's battle tested. Let's not forget, he gave Texas their only regular season loss in terms of the Red River rivalry. He is a quarterback that comes with experience and is going to have one of the better offenses in the Big Ten.
So people are going to roll their eyes when I say this, but I'm right. The selling point on Dylan Gabriel is the guy he is replacing would have won this award last year under the current format. Because Oregon made the college football playoff, and LSU would have not made the college football playoff. And that is one of the changes. Is now in the expanded format, I think that we have more contenders. I think it's more open. But if you are not in the CFP, there is no way you win this award. I cannot imagine. I mean, again, we gave it last year to Jaden Daniels and LSU, who was 13th in the final CFP poll. But there were only 4 teams that made it, so it didn't feel as nightmarish. I was the only person in the world that understood that team was not winning any of the games that mattered, even if he lit up Army. But that's okay. That's okay. The selling point on Gabriel is they project to be the best offense in college football, and they are the 3rd biggest favorite to make the college football playoff. And that is it's a very simple and coherent argument to make.
So this year is going to be fascinating for so many different angles in this new era of college football. We'll see how the College Football Playoff Selection Committee approaches their rankings come November, how they will determine the 12-team format, and what it means for every other aspect of CFB. Because if you've watched college football today, or if you have not, here's where the Heisman Trophy gets really interesting. In years past, in the 10-year history, decade-long 4-team format of the college football playoff, we had a strong sample size and a trend. 7 of the 10 winners of the Heisman Trophy led their team to a conference championship victory or an appearance in the CFP. 8 of the 10 played the quarterback position. Those are very strong betting trends from a handicapping perspective entering this year. But where it becomes fascinating, Kev, is what you just mentioned. You got to be one of the CFP teams in a field of 12, it would appear, entering this season. But if there are so many more teams, whether it's battling for one of those automatic berths via a conference championship or trying to lose only 2 games to earn the at-large bids to the CFP, that keeps the teams as a part of the national conversation deep into November. Will it also keep those individual names as a part of the Heisman Trophy race?
Yeah, I really think it will, and I think what you're going to then see is this is where an ACC, or in my case, a Big 12, can kind of make a name for themselves, because last year we opened the door. The statistical eye-popping numbers are going to carry a lot of weight. You have to hit a baseline level of winning, right, which anyone that makes the CFP will hit, but who is going to have those gaudy numbers? I cannot believe Ollie Gordon is 75-1. I truly think he should be at least under 50-1, if not 30-1. Oklahoma State has top 3 odds to win the Big 12. He last year led college football in rushing yards and was second only to Blake Corum in rushing touchdowns, and he didn't even have the job for the first 3 weeks of the season. If you take what Ollie did when he took over and extrapolate that over 13 games, because I think they will need to make a Big 12 title game, that's over 1,900 yards and 22 touchdowns. He had 2 outlier games, and I know it's not fair for me to just remove his bad games, but he had 2 games where he went for 59 yards and no touchdowns. That is not what I would expect from Ollie. If you take the 9-game sample size, then that over 13 games is nearly 2,300 rushing yards and 27 touchdowns. Now, I'm not telling you he's going to do that, but I think 2,000 yards and 25 touchdowns is on the board. If he does that and they win the Big 12, he's winning the Heisman Trophy.
And he would have won maybe the Heisman because he was trending to a 2,000-yard season last year. If they would have knocked off Texas in the Big 12 championship game, he might have had some juice, depending upon if he didn't fall off. He had that one game after, I believe it was Bedlam, where he didn't perform.
UCF,
25 yards.
I believe that was your best out of the day.
That was, right. So I'm with Kevin as well in regards to the running back position. We haven't seen a winner since Derrick Henry in terms of 2015, and there's 4 running backs potentially outside of Ollie Gordon that can carry it. Quinton Junkins, 100-1. Travion Henderson is shocking. That Junkins and Henderson are going to split carries. You have Junkins at 100-1. He was basically an 1,100-yard rusher, 7 yards per carry with 15 touchdowns, and he's a 100-1 shot with Will Howard, right, in that offense. And Travion Henderson is a $120, 120-1. It's mind-boggling. And then the guy that I like is Donovan Edwards, 497 last year, 2 touchdowns in regards to the national championship game. That, to me, will carry over. If Michigan is 10-2 or an 11-1 team, and obviously he rushes for 200 over Texas week 2. He goes from 100 to 1 to like 40 to 1. I already have him at 190.
The shortest price of any non-quarterback around the country in college football is the guy that does it all in Boulder, Travis Hunter, a 60 to 1 number. Just look at the sample size of CU's upset of TCU in the season opener a season ago. They won outright as a 3-touchdown underdog, and Travis Hunter, Joe, played 144 total snaps. If you are not a quarterback, oftentimes you must do it all to win a Heisman Trophy. Travis Hunter fits that bill.
Now, if Colorado, let's just say, when Kevin talks, doesn't make the playoff, but they go 8-4, and Travis Hunter, let's say, has 1,000 yards receiving and plays 125 snaps per game and has 8 interceptions, that's in the top of, in terms of FBS, that Gordy Lockbaum, multi-dimensional Ironman, Charles Woodson type, then there's your player right there. So that it's worth a look if he puts up that type of productivity from start to finish.
I will say, if you are betting Travis Hunter, listen, I mean, they need to be like 6-6 probably. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they need to be 8-4. The comparison for Travis Hunter, Ohtani last night hit a walk-off grand slam to join the 40-40 club.
Yeah.
If Travis Hunter creates his own club and goes 10 touchdowns and 10 picks, I'm not sure it matters when anybody else does, because that's just the most. Now, again, what I just said is ridiculous and stupid. Yeah. But that's what it's going to take on a team. Well, we all just agreed you have to make the CFP, right? That team's win total is 5.5, 6. He has to do something crazy. The thing is, he's the only player who's even remotely capable of doing that.
And we'll talk Colorado's expectation entering year 2 of the prime era a little bit later on in the show. Carson Beck was a co-favorite, opened up in the Heisman Trophy market as the early preseason favorite. The 3rd most passing yards last season in all of college football, better than 3,900. And we have started a lot of conversations on the Dogs the last few years. Defense first. Might I argue it's offense first this year in Athens. The coach joins us next. A new edition of College Football Today. Terry Bowden is here on CFT for Week 0 next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Well, welcome back to College Football Today, live right here on the first Saturday of the 2024 college football season. And this Saturday, and for everyone after, we are very pleased here on CFT to welcome on the coach. It is Terry Bowden, a guy with 16 years of experience as a head coach in college football at Auburn, Akron, and Louisiana Monroe. He will be a fixture of CFT throughout this season to provide that coaching perspective you can't find anywhere else. So, Coach Bowden, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here on this first Saturday of the year.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
We are very glad to have you here. And, of course, the Bowden name is synonymous in Tallahassee. Not in Tallahassee this week, of course, for Florida State. It's a Week 0 opener in Ireland. Coach, in your perspective, getting a team ready for a season opener is always a unique challenge. It gets even more difficult when you're across the pond in Dublin playing in Week 0. How do you try to make this, if you're Mike Norvell and Brent Key, for Georgia Tech as normal as possible of game week preparation?
Well, you can't really do the next couple of days before the game the same way because you got such a long trip. But you do try to make sure they get the amount of rest time, the amount of preparation, the preparation the day before that. So it's as much like a game time experience. But it is going to be different. Do they get tired? Do you come out there and be a little bit more conservative on what you're doing till you get down and comfortable? So it's not something you can prepare for because you haven't done it before.
Coach Bowden, let's focus on the actual game that will be played over in Ireland inside of Aviva Stadium. The Noles enter this season ranked 10th in the country in the preseason AP poll. They're an 11.5-point favorite for this all-ACC affair in their season opener against Georgia Tech. As you look at these two teams entering their first game of 2024, what do you think the key matchup is going to be?
Well, I think, one, you've got DJU at Florida State. He's new to their system. They want to run the football because that's what they do well, and that's what the other team, Georgia Tech, did not do very well, stopping the run. So you want to run the ball and kind of let DJU kind of manage the offense, not bring him in too strong because he's new to their system, and they can run the football, they believe, against this football team.
DJ Uyunglele now in his first year at Florida State. But, Coach, you know him well. You were a part of Clemson's staff back in 2020. It was DJU's first year in college football. It's been a rocky ride at times. 3 years at Clemson, last season in 2023 at Oregon State. 40 career starts for DJ Uyunglele. He's got a 30-10 record. What are your expectations for DJU with FSU?
Well, I was on the field watching every day when he was a freshman, and my impression of him, he was going to be a great quarterback. He was going to be the next great one at Clemson. Now, it didn't work out that way. I believe they lost key coaching staff personnel. They lost key personnel on the field around him. He kind of took the blame, but I still think, and I've watched a lot of quarterbacks, and I studied him every day. I think he's got a chance to be a great quarterback, more the pro type, big guy who can throw the football, run if he has to, but he's going to dump off quite often. So I really think he has a chance to be the guy that Mike Norvell wanted at Florida State for the reason that he is, because I think he's a very, very talented quarterback.
There will be lofty expectations for DJU and the Noles entering this year. Coach, the preseason favorites to win the ACC for a second consecutive season. As you look at Florida State entering 2024, the big picture here for the Seminoles this year, how do you view success this season in Tallahassee?
Well, you got to start out a good note, win today, and I think they will win. I'm not sure. I'd pick the under on the game and picked up Georgia Tech to cover the spread, but I think Florida State will win a pretty close game. But I think they'll be 5-0. They need to be 5-0 going into Clemson because those final games with Miami, Florida, and Notre Dame are going to be a key. But I really like Florida State's chances. The team in the ACC that I think you got to be careful about is Miami. They've loaded up with talent with a great quarterback and 5 probably NFL caliber defensive linemen. So Clemson obviously will be in the hunt. But I think Miami is that team you better watch out for if you're Florida State, because we know Florida State over the years, Miami's been tough on them.
Coach Bowden, it's a really good point, and we've seen that represented in the market. The ACC title odds were just shown. It's now only a 60-cent gap. We've seen some market movement in the final few days getting ready for this 2024 college football season. Outside of the ACC, it's a new era in college football starting here in 2024. Conference realignment, the expansion of the college football playoff to 12 teams. As we take a look at those national championship odds, what are your expectations for the best programs in the country entering this new year?
Well, you got to go with talent first. And I'm big on coaching and talent. Both of those things being very important. But if you don't have Georgia and Ohio State because of their talent as the two top teams, really, everybody has to look at that talent. See, that's where they are. And you come back with Texas and Oregon, because I think Oregon will compete with Ohio State for the Big Ten championship. Texas is that next one in line against Georgia. But those are the top two. That after that, you can go to Alabama, Ole Miss, maybe Notre Dame as the next three teams that come up big to fight against those teams. And so should be interesting in those top teams.
The four highest ranked teams in the AP top 25 in that exact order: Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Texas 4, represented in those national championship odds. Outside of the best powerhouse programs this year in college football, Coach Bowden, any sleeper picks that you think might make a run to the college football playoff and contend for a title?
Well, I'm close to the LSU program. I've kind of picked them as a sleeper because I love Garrett, the quarterback, is outstanding. Neismeyer is outstanding, and I think they've got a chance to be, with a really good schedule, to be a sleeper. But Ole Miss, Missouri, Notre Dame, Penn State, you've got some of the teams that have very good teams but never quite have enough to get there, and those are the other ones you got to look at.
And it opens up now in a field of 12, the largest field that will contend ever in the history of college football for a national championship, and the longest season we will ever see in college football history. Coach Terry Bowden, a guy that knows everything around college football. He will be a part of college football today for the entirety of this new era in 2024. Coach Bowden, we appreciate the time on this opening Saturday of the year. We'll look forward to chatting the rest of the way throughout the 2024 campaign.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for being here. Joe Lisi and Coach Terry Bowden, good friends that date back to many years of working together. I'm sure we'll hear from those two in just a little bit. So Coach Bowden gave you his thoughts on this opening week 0 slate around the country in college football. The Irish opener is now just over an hour away in Dublin between 10th-ranked Florida State and Georgia Tech. Kev and Lisi, join me up next. We'll get back to it here on College Football Today. It's time to find some odds that might find their way across the pylon and into the end zone. Some Pater picks and plenty more up next on College Football Today.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back to College Football Today, live right here on this first Saturday of 2024. The Irish opener less than an hour and a half away over in Dublin. It's 10th-ranked Florida State and Georgia Tech in an all-ACC affair. And one of our favorite things here on CFT is a segment we like to call Pay Dirt Picks. Those anytime touchdown props. The guys to find their way into the end zone. We love it so much, we'll spin that football around and spin it around up here on the desk. So let's start with some of those best prices to find Pay Dirt today for both Florida State and the Yellow Jackets. As we look at the odds atop the board, it's the two running backs for FSU, the Alabama transfer, Roydell Williams, and Lawrence Toafili, who was their guy to lead them in the ACC championship game, a career best 118 yards and a touchdown as well. Lisi, as you look up and down the board today, where do you think the best prices are?
Well, Toafili to get not one but potentially two touchdowns is plus 460. I say that because he's a bigger back than Roydell Williams. Roydell is that home run hitter in terms of a Jahmyr Gibbs type of player, so Toafili can get it between the tackles. They love to utilize him as well in terms of the Wildcat, and when you look at the Georgia Tech defense, Ben, they allowed 220 rushing yards per game. That's the matchup to see how it plays out. And then I'll just take a shot. Florida State's defense plus 540 now. The reason why I say that, we know about Haynes King, turnover prone, 16 interceptions last year. I think that's a potential for maybe Florida State's experienced secondary to step up, Kev, and make some noise.
The simple but probably smart look is on Jamal Haynes, the running back for Georgia Tech. We've talked about this game a little bit already, but for Georgia Tech, the selling point is an offense last year that exploded and an offense that returns the key pieces in Jamal Haynes and Haynes King. Jamal Haynes last season, 7 touchdowns, and he didn't score against the very best defenses. Against Georgia, against Clemson, he was left out of the end zone there, but it's another year better. And for this Georgia Tech team, I certainly think that if that's the direction you're looking, it lines up well enough that you're getting a plus price.
Haynes King, great at utilizing his legs, more than 730 yards on the ground. He ran it 10 times, 10 rush attempts in 9 games last season for Georgia Tech, and 10 rushing scores, a plus 126 number on Haynes King and all Haynes backfield, with Jamal Haynes, the leading running back as well. What would a Pay Dirt Pick segment be if we didn't get a defensive touchdown prop out of the mastermind over there? Lisi, between the two sides, you mentioned Haynes King, a little bit turnover prone last year, 16 interceptions. Can the all-ACC returners, in terms of the performers on the outside, Fentrell Cypress II and Shaheem Brown, take advantage today for FSU?
I think they can. You talk about, in terms of just statistics, they held opposing quarterbacks to 48% completion percentage, and more importantly, only allowed as a secondary last year, Ben, 12 passing touchdowns, 179 yards per game. So, again, we talk about how Haynes King slipped from the first 5 games of the regular season to the second half. Last 8, only 170 passing yards per game. I think they could step up, Kev.
I want to take a chance just because, obviously, we're kind of, formatting things a little different, but usually we would also go for the loot around this same time here. And the Heisman Trophy, I really, really like Ollie Gordon. You like anybody that plays running back, basically, right? Which makes a lot of sense.
Donovan Edwards is my number one pick, but I also sprinkled some on some.
I mean, to end out last year, Donovan Edwards gave you a ton of plus money in that national championship game.
He's family.
He is.
What about you?
My pick is Avery Johnson, the quarterback out of Kansas State, because I'm developing a theory that I'm going to test this. Avery Johnson, in a bowl game that swept the nation last year, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, right, where Strawberry sacrificed himself for the greater good of college football and really our nation. Avery Johnson, in his true freshman campaign for K-State, was the starter for the Pop-Tarts Bowl as Will Howard had entered the transfer portal. And Avery Johnson won the Pop-Tarts Bowl MVP award. So the narrative is this. We have never, in the 100-plus year history of college football, seen a guy win the Pop-Tarts Bowl MVP award and not strike the pose as the Heisman Trophy winner the very next season. So Avery Johnson, the exciting dual-threat quarterback, taking the mantle for Kansas State, 25-1 to win the Heisman Trophy. And the actual correlation is I think the Wildcats can win the Big 12 as a part of that conversation that we mentioned in terms of that national correlation, Ken.
And I do think the Big 12 is up and around the corner. It's so crazy, man. Yeah. Is off air, you mentioned that to me the other day. and it didn't resonate as much as it just did in that moment.
Yeah.
Pop-Tart?
Pop-Tart. You like Pop-Tarts? Last time you had a Pop-Tart?
Never.
Probably like 6, if they were
I was going to
around.
say 6 years old if they were even there.
Yeah,
I thought you were
6,
going to say
7.
60.
Too much
years
carbs.
ago.
I'd be older than dirt if that happened.
You still look pretty good. Hour number 3, our third and final on college football today comes to an end.